Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit. Today we are joined by Cara Rosenthal Knapp, who is an attorney, a business strategist, and the co-founder and chief legal and strategy officer of Expert Radiology. Cara, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Can we start off? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Expert Radiology?
Sure. Well, hi, I'm Cara, as mentioned, and I myself am an attorney, but I work a little on both sides, in a sense, in the medico-legal space for Expert Radiology, where I co-founded, but also serve as chief legal and strategy officer. So Expert Radiology is a radiology practice, unique in a lot of ways, but most notably because we created a proprietary product. We reimagined how MRIs are, MRI reports is a better way to say it, are received by patients so that they can better understand their outcomes of their scans right off the bat. And from that, kind of honing in on this one very, very particular issue deeply, we opened up a whole can of worms, so to speak, with lots of different verticals and crossovers into other areas and application uses for the report, like legal.
So when clients come to Expert Radiology, what are some of the pain points and problems that they're experiencing that Expert Radiology is helping them solve or helping them navigate through?
Right. So, I mean, in a sense, clients don't really come to us, right? Because we are a radiology practice. So it's patients in our case. And so our clients, first and foremost, are patients. But our kind of sub-layer of clients, right, are imaging centers. So imaging centers, outpatient imaging centers. Have you ever gotten a scan for?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So when you get injured, right, or something, and you've got something to take a look at, you're going to go get a scan. It could be an X-ray, it could be an MRI, it could be a CT scan, right? CAT scan. And so you go and you have that imaging done, and then it's sent to a radiologist to interpret the scans. So that's when we come into play, really. That's what we do. And we have an entire team of subspecialized neuroradiologists and MSK radiologists. So they're kind of a little more deeply trained, more specific. And we have created a report that goes back to the patient. So when you got your scans done, do you remember what your report looked like? If you even remember seeing it at all?
No, not at all.
Okay. So a lot of cases, right, you're very typical, they go just back to the doctor. And historically, that's always just been a bunch of doctor medical jargon on a page that's meant to communicate between one doctor, the radiologist, and the doctor who you probably went to that sent you there in the first place, right? So you hurt yourself, you went to a doctor, they said you might need to go get a scan, it gets sent to us, and then it goes back to the doctor to explain what the outcome of that scan was. Well, nowadays, there's obviously in healthcare a huge push for patients everywhere to have access to their medical records more readily and more easily. And so, I'm sure you've gone and you get a portal access and you get to see your records and your reports and even your images themselves as they came out of the scan. Well, as a result of that, and then you receive back this language that you don't understand, it can create a lot of confusion. And what patients don't understand, they don't often comply with or treat, right? Or they become a real not headache, but a little bit of a burden for that doctor that sent them out for this in the first place. Oh my gosh, I'm reading these words, I've gone to Google, I'm a doctor now, and here's all the things that are wrong. So we kind of honed in on that and thought, wow, wouldn't it be amazing if it was so simple that you could see and understand the outcome of that report the minute you get it. And so we kind of kept thinking on that and ruminating. And with time, what we did was we hired all the world's class best medical illustrators we could find, and they hand drew every possible, it's called permutation. So every possible outcome. There's like trillions of combinations, truly trillions. And so they drew every possible outcome, and we've created a proprietary database that's going to look at the report from your radiologist and say, okay, there's this issue at these, 3 levels of the spine. There's a herniation here, there's a bulge there, there's a whatever. And I'm not a doctor myself, so I'm not going to even attempt all of the lingo. But at the end of the day, what it does is it pulls together all of these outcomes and it creates your, not another patient's, not a sample, not like a, generic picture that sort of touches on what might be happening here, but it actually gives your pathology. And we did to test it and make sure it really translates is we tested on our kids. So I have a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 6-year-old, and we hold up pictures and we say, where do you think the problem is? Do you think there's a problem here? And they're like, is it that big red thing that's bulging out, pushing into the spine? And we're like, yep, that's it. And so anyway, that's what we did, and that's what we created. No one else has created it, and we have other features in our report that are unique. And as a result, it's become it's kind of opened up a whole new vertical for us in the legal space, because so often these injured clients of law firms end up going for a scan, and then there's a lot more people kind of looking at those results, trying to understand it. And
right.
That's everyone from the lawyer themselves to, the insurance adjuster, obviously the patient, and of course the referring providers. And so it's become a new way of streamlining that communication and adding a lot of value to the comprehension of everyone involved in advocating for those patients.
Now, is this proprietary product, this is Precision Plus V3, is that what it is currently on?
Yep, that's the name of the report. That's exactly it. And it's been amazing. It's just been such a unexpected outcome, the way that we've seen. I mean, we expected the patients to better understand their injuries, and that was the whole goal. And but what's been so cool is just seeing how now it's finding its landing spot in other practices. We've had so many orthopedic surgeons that we work with who typically, don't even, maybe if they glance at the radiologist reports, historically orthopedic surgeons are like, I like to look at my own, at the film or at the scans themselves. And now they're like, this is amazing when we have to explain to a patient what's going on in their knee, or they have this meniscal tear or whatever, and they show it and they can see how big it is and just sort of the outcome of it. And then they have to explain why this is tantamount to surgery or whatever. It just creates such an amazing baseline, and patients are so happy to receive information like this. I mean, everyone wants to better understand what's going on when they know that when you're uncomfortable and when you need medical care, and then when you don't understand it, it's very difficult to move forward in the care plan.
Well, and that kind of leads perfectly into my next question is, you mentioned, your 9-year-old being able to look at this data and, is it the big red spot right there? And I'm curious, what is the importance of that sort of visual element when it comes to patient understanding of what's going on? How important is that visual aspect of it?
I think it's incredibly important. There's the age-old saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but truly it is. And when you can see what the problem is, it creates an immense value to your own personal comprehension, but also to just everything that comes after that. Like I was mentioning, not only your interactions with your referring providers, with the other providers, but then think about it through the lens of an attorney. They have to explain why a patient is not able to get up and potentially go to work or pick up their kids or play with their kids anymore after some of these, kind of horrific accidents we hear about. And even not even so horrific accidents. I mean, pain is pain. I've had issues with my sciatica over the years where it's like, I can't get out of my chair, And so having an understanding and having a picture there that explains it to a person who doesn't have medical knowledge, you shouldn't have to have gone to medical school to understand what's going on in your own body. Right. And so, when the pain is there, it's real. And so helping it explain and sort of be obvious and evident from a single glance, it just creates such an amazing baseline for everyone who's going to have to interact with that information. And it's so important. I mean, like I said, I'm an attorney. myself. And so I really understand in the life cycle of a case what that means. And that's why it sort of found a home. We also do a lot of second opinions. So we do also have the ability to review other records, I should say. And so we do interact with law firms directly in that capacity. And as a treating doctor, not so much, right? We're just treating. We're treating every patient who comes through. It doesn't really make a difference how they got to that MRI, right? But in the life cycle of a case, the output of this is tremendous, because later on down the line, if a case like proceeds to deposition, mediations, trials, right, you're having to communicate medical findings that also justify the entire course of treatment and all of the explanation that the patient has suffered, right? And in a case, there's an attorney who I particularly love listening to speak at these conferences. His name is Bob Simon. I don't know if you've met him yet, but anyway, he always says the MRI don't lie. And I love when he says that, because it's the truth. It's the one objective piece of evidence in a case. And so when that's the cornerstone, when you have something so obvious and apparent at a single glance, it brings it all the way through to the very, very end. We had an attorney call us the other day. They said, "Oh my God, we went to trial and I didn't have to I spent $3, blowing up your report and not hiring medical illustrators and not hiring all these additional experts, because all I had to do was blow up the picture and say, you see this? This is what we're talking about. This is real." And it was like an incredible outcome for them. And so, for us, it's very cool. We set out to just do good doctoring. And as a result, we got to open up this whole other kind of revenue stream.
Yeah. When products like Precision Plus come along that are radically, solving a problem or, something that was troubling and giving people, errors and a hard time, when they come along and solve those problems, these types of products, how does it really sort of shift patient behavior and shift industry economics? And, when do those products go from being something that's nice to have to something that's expected, right?
Yeah, it's actually I'm so glad you mentioned that. We're experiencing it in real time right now, and it is the truth. And we can all think of it, right? Like, we used to have a phone that you had to be at home to answer, and then it became a cell phone, and it's in your pocket. And so, can we go back? Could you ever live without a cell phone now? You know what I mean? Would anyone even take you seriously? So I think it's this is aligned with that in my mind, because when you create something that truly solves a problem and is just hyper focused on a best outcome for that product, which in our case is patient comprehension, the more and more people get to interact with this, patients interact with this information, the more expected it is. And it's very cool too, because we've gotten to see, we brought this to market just a little over a year ago. And we were always kind of growing organically with a big practice, but now our practice, our radiology practice itself, like the number of radiologists we have has tripled in a year, and because the demand is tremendous. And it's because it's also a market differentiator, right? Right now, we're sort of at the front end of the nice to have, need to have. It's starting in the markets where it's been there for a year. People are calling, they're like, we can't go back, because now our patients understand what's going on. The referring providers are benefiting from this, because it's making every, you have to think about, for doctors, time is money, right? So if they can responsibly meet, I like to remind every doctor, responsibly meet. Now, when they can responsibly meet and have good quality conversation in their consultations, right? After this report, if they can reduce the time to have a deep, good, comprehensible conversation with their patient as an outcome of this report, that's very valuable to a medical practice. And so our referring providers love it. That's been so cool to hear about. The MRI centers who are bringing it, they have repeat customers because of it. If patients have a wonderful experience in one place, why would they go somewhere else and get something lesser, right? So that's sort of, it has like all these like little ripple effects, which is so cool. But I do believe that it's almost like, they call it a disruptor, but right, in any market, this is just our market, but in any market, once you have a product that transitions, the demand for it is tremendous. And it's exciting it opens up for what I'm doing in the company. It opens up a huge space for strategic alignment and, growth and aligning of incentives with new products themselves. So it's very cool.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you mentioned, the market, because that leads perfectly into my next question, which was, as the co-founder of Expert Radiology, when did you first realize that there was sort of a need in the market and a space in the market for a company like Expert Radiology? Can you dive in a little bit about the origin of Expert Radiology and when you realized you needed to found something like Expert Radiology?
Sure. So I co-founded it with my husband. His name is Dr. Avery Knapp Jr. He's a neuroradiologist. So I guess I never thought about the pun associated with the neuroradiologist part, but the brains behind the operation in many senses. But this was a long, as I mentioned before, organic growth. My husband was practicing as a teleradiologist, reading for several radiology practices. And actually, really, it all kind of happened super unexpectedly. He was just a normal treating radiologist, as so many are, and he ended up getting called as a witness for a case that he was the treating doctor on. And he went up there and he had to explain, his findings. And because I guess I don't remember what the details of the case was, but it must have been obviously it was some sort of legal case. And so he got called up. He was so nervous. And he went up there and did his thing and explained everything so eloquently. And as a result of that, he had an opportunity to start working with lawyers who were looking for a credible expert who was going to be, basically just how he is. And so from that, demand kind of grew more and more for him to straddle both worlds himself as an expert witness and also as, just an ongoing treating doctor as he was. And so as he continued to have more and more demand, we needed more and more radiologists. And so we hired other specialists that knew parts of the body that better in a sense than him, which is like the MSK versus the neuro. Not all are identical. And so we started hiring hiring doctors as we continued to have demands. And so around 2020, Expert Radiology, as it is today, really became a thing. We realized that there was a true medical legal marketplace where we needed to be, and the reason was because a lot of expert witnesses and doctors, they like to toe the line one way or the other. There's some overcalling and there's some undercalling, and we don't believe in that. We train our doctors very, very, very firmly and stringently. We believe that every patient should be treated like they're a high-end athlete. If Tom Brady gets injured, there's a lot that goes into his recovery, right? No doctor who's looking at a scan on Tom Brady is going to blow off a 2 millimeter, disc herniation, but they're not going to miss anything. They're going to look at it. They're going to look at it again. They're going to look at it again, and they're going to look at it again. And so what we thought about is, that's kind of unfair, right? Because everyone should be entitled to that level of care. It shouldn't make a difference if it's an 80-year-old grandma who, fell off her bed or a 30-year-old guy. And so through that lens, we realized Expert Radiology had to exist because it was very important to do the work at the highest level and at the most ethical and, stringent level with accuracy and precision. And that's why we are where we are today. And that's why we came up with Precision Plus V3, because as we looked at it more and more, we're like, how would this be explained to Tom Brady? I mean, or whoever your favorite athlete is, how would it, I mean,
not Tom Brady.
So I shouldn't be talking about him, to be fair, but, but I think most people would recognize the name. So so that's really where it all came. And then that's really where the report came from, is what would be the highest quality of communication that anyone could receive. And then, to be fair, prior to Precision Plus V3, Tom Brady himself was not getting a report like this either. We are truly the first of our kind. But it really is what birthed it. And so it's kind of like a combination effort. And the truth of the matter is it does draw so much from all we learned from the many years of expert work. I mean, I think that my husband has done, I don't know, probably over 400 depositions and trials at this point as an expert.
Oh, wow.
So yes, I mean, and he's not the only one of his kind, but it is unique overall. And so you learn a lot during that. You learn that the level of scrutiny is high because they are trying to pick apart a patient's record. And so how important is it to every patient everywhere, regardless of if they're involved in a legal case? That's tertiary, at least. It's tangential at best.
Right.
But shouldn't every patient be able to really understand and have that level of care every time?
Absolutely. And I'm gonna throw a buzzword at you because I'm curious. So this is a big buzzword right now, obviously, but with Precision Plus V3, is AI playing any sort of a role in that? And if so, how did you arrive at that?
Yes, this is actually the most common question. So the answer is no. I mean, you still have to have radiologists read your reports. You should always, right now, still be doing that. We definitely love AI. We're big believers. I think that actually, I've been thinking about AI more than I have cared to for for like a decade and a half, because the very first time I met my husband, he told me, he's like, all right, I've got a window. It might be 15 years until AI comes from my job. So I'm going to be working a lot and whatever. And I was like, okay, like Mr. Robot Man. But if you knew radiologists, you would totally understand that their entire life is computers and tech and stuff. So it does attract. Yeah, I think, first of all, I think AI is amazing. I think AI is the future. I think that I know for a fact that it's not there yet in terms of the quality of medical read and care, but will it be, and can it be? Absolutely. I think that AI is going to be a tremendous tool. For right now, Precision Plus V3 is not AI powered. It's not at the level. It's not at the level. I mean, to be honest, a lot of treating general radiologists are also not reading to the sensitivity level of our radiology team. We have, like I said, really, really highly specialized, highly accurate, precise reports. But we do have our own proprietary, as I mentioned, when we do all the medical illustrations, we have our own internal database and software that sort of, I mean, I wouldn't say AI, but it has its own like engine inside of it that does pull together those, like I said, trillions of options, so that we can give you your one option. But it was all built by hand, and it's not AI operated at this point.
When you think back on all of the people that you have been able to help through Expert Radiology, that you've been able to help with Precision Plus, when you think back on all of these patients, is there a story that stands out in your mind when you think back of a patient that you really saw positive outcomes for as a result of Precision Plus and Expert Radiology's help?
It's sort of a funny thing. We don't really get to see the patients as much as they get to see us now. And what do I mean by that? Most radiologists, there's actually a great comedian who does, not comedian, but a comedic radiologist who has his little Instagram feed, and he always makes jokes about what it's like to walk in on a radiologist working, because it's always in like a very, very dark room with like lots of screens, and they're like they look like it's some sort of like Gollum character, Seriously,
I'm a video editor. I can't relate to that at all.
Exactly. And so, So radiology has always been like a behind the scenes doctor. And so we don't actually get to communicate with the patients. I mean, but for like a serious finding that needs immediate attention, of course, then we contact the patient directly. That's just an appropriate practice for
Sure.
that, but we don't really get to see the outcomes that much. Now, thankfully, kind of having this new side gig of sorts
Right.
with the legal elements, we do get feedback from attorneys. And so what we're hearing, which is just awesome, is that they're seeing better recovery and outcomes for their patient, like much higher, they get, tendering full policy limits at X, 2X, 3X faster,
Wow.
which means the care is coming back to those patients and into their pocket so they can continue with their medical care and health and bills and, life. We're getting a ton of feedback like that. And that's really rewarding because, we do this. Doctors are really there to help people. Like that's why
Right.
you get into this,
Right.
like I said, I'm not a doctor, but I do work with them every day and they really do care about treating people. Like it is the Hippocratic oath that they took. And it is, I can say that for every radiologist on our team, they take it really seriously. They know that they're dealing with people's health, people's
Yeah.
lives, and it matters to them. And so, it's really awesome to hear stories like that about how much impact this type of report can have. And I will say, that we have seen one of the reasons that we honed in on patient comprehension and a report at this level is also because there are some bad actors. Sometimes
Right.
uh, a patient goes in for unnecessary surgeries that could have been avoided. And sometimes patients don't proceed through care that they really do need that would give them a lot of relief because they don't understand. So it's for us, we really feel, I think, if my husband were here, something he says, but it's because it's true to his core is our goal as a company is to set a standard in healthcare everywhere, globally. Every patient should be able to receive medical information in a way they can understand it. That's like our true vision and goal. But he likes to say, and in terms of where this report came from, we wanted to kind of clean up, we want to be a gold standard in a sea of some garbage, because unfortunately there is a little bit of that out there
Right.
too. And we really it's integral to our core as a company and truly the two of us as humans.
When you think about the legacy of Expert Radiology, 10 years from now, what impact do you hope people will say the company had on medicine and on patients?
Yes, I think that I genuinely hope, and I believe everyone on our team hopes that it will have been the start of a major push towards truly comprehensive and comprehensible information. Like I said just a minute ago, the truth of the matter is patients should be able to understand their medicine and their healthcare easily, not with struggle.
Right.
So I hope that we are a part of changing that interaction with your own body and your own information and your own healthcare globally.
Amazing. Well, Cara, this has been an awesome conversation. This has been really sort of an enlightening conversation for me. I learned a lot about medical legal cases I had no clue about. So thank you so
Yeah,
much for
trust me,
joining
me
us.
too. Over the years, I learned a
If
lot more than I ever expected setting out to do this. I promise you that.
Absolutely. If anybody out there listening could use your help, could use the help of Expert Radiology, could use the help of Precision Plus, where can people find you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the easiest way would be hop on our website, www.expertradiology.com. You can find me on, social media. You can find, I'm sure you'll do some links somewhere on this page, but
Absolutely.
yeah.
Down
Instagram,
there.
LinkedIn, wherever it is, wherever you're putting it. You can reach out to us, and we're very accessible. Our whole team. I mean, we sign our emails with our cell phones, so we want to be there for patients, humans, anyone who can benefit, and learn more from what we have to offer.
Absolutely. Well, Cara, thank you so much for joining us. This was incredible.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you everyone for listening. This has been Partnerships for Profit presented by LeDuc Entertainment. LeDuc Entertainment for all your podcast needs. Cara, thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.